And for the first time, you're not completely identified with it. You can watch anger without being angry, observe pain without drowning in it. The world doesn't vanish, rather, it becomes transparent. You see the play, the dance, and you smile, because you realize you are both the actor and the audience. And the third sign is profound curiosity. The ordinary becomes extraordinary. You start to notice the subtle miracle in everything. The sound of the wind, the rhythm of your breath, the way light plays on water. You realize you don't need meaning, because existence itself is meaning. You no longer demand answers from life, you listen to it like a musician listens to silence between notes. These three signs, discomfort, detachment, and curiosity, are the whispers of awakening. They may come with confusion, even fear, because the ego resists dissolving. But remember, you are not the ego that fears, you are the awareness that sees it all. The awakening is not a destination. It's a realization that you were never asleep to begin with. You were simply dreaming of being separate. And now, the dreamer stirs, the veil thins, and life begins to shine in its true form, as pure consciousness, playing as you, as me, as everything. So when these signs appear, don't run. Don't rush to label yourself lightened or lost. Just be still. Watch. The universe is waking up through your eyes. And that, my friends, is the most beautiful awakening of all. Awakening is not about acquiring something new. It's about remembering what's always been within you. People often imagine awakening as some grand revelation that descends from the heavens, a lightning bolt that suddenly transforms everything. Yet, the truth is far more subtle, more intimate, and far more familiar. Awakening doesn't come from outside. It's not a teacher's gift, a book's wisdom, or a practice's reward. It's the quiet recognition that what you've been searching for has never left you. You are simply beginning to remember your original nature. The part of you that existed before fear, before identity, before the world told you who you were supposed to be. For most of life, we live under the illusion that we are separate from others, from nature, and from life itself. We strive to build a self, to define it, defend it, polish it. We chase experiences, hoping they will complete us. But no matter how far we go, there's a subtle ache that remains, a whisper that says, something isn't right. That whisper is the call to awaken. It's not asking you to become something more, but to drop what's false. The layers of conditioning, the constant striving, the belief that peace lies somewhere else. When you begin to awaken, you don't gain new knowledge, you lose the need for it. You start to unlearn. You peel away everything that was added to you. The expectations, the comparisons, the endless judgments. In that stillness, you rediscover what you always were, awareness itself. You realize that beneath all your stories, your triumphs and failures, your roles and memories, there is something unchanging, untouched. That's what you are remembering. The simple, boundless presence that's been silently witnessing your entire life. This remembering often feels like coming home after a long, exhausting journey. It's not dramatic or loud. It's a soft recognition, like waking up from a dream. Suddenly, the world looks the same, but everything feels lighter. The air seems clearer. The worries that once consumed you lose their power. You no longer feel the need to prove anything to anyone, because you begin to see there was never anyone to prove it to. The sense of I, that struggled for control, was never real to begin with. And yet, awakening isn't the end of the human experience. It's the beginning of truly living it. You still laugh, cry, work, love, but now you do so consciously, without resistance. You move through life with a quiet grace, understanding that every moment is the universe expressing itself. The idea of seeking fades away, because what could you possibly seek when you realize you are already whole? In truth, awakening is simply remembering that you were never lost. You were never broken. You were never incomplete. The light you seek was never outside of you. It was the one doing the seeking. And when that realization dawns, even for a moment, it changes everything. Because you finally see that the journey was never about becoming more. It was always about coming home to yourself. The signs of awakening often appear as confusion, detachment, and profound curiosity about existence. At first, this can feel unsettling, even frightening, because the old world, the one built from certainty and identity, begins to dissolve. What once made perfect sense suddenly feels hollow. You look around and realize that much of what you believed, much of what you pursued, was not your own truth but a borrowed story. It's like waking up in a theater, realizing you've been playing a role so long you forgot it was just a performance. That moment of confusion is not a mistake, it is the beginning of seeing clearly. Confusion arises because the mind, which has spent its life clinging to structure and control, cannot comprehend what's happening. It wants to define awakening, to measure it, to hold it like an object. But awakening cannot be grasped. It dissolves the very one who is trying to understand. You begin to see that your thoughts, emotions, and even your sense of I are not permanent. They shift and move like clouds across the sky. For the first time, you catch glimpses of the vastness behind them, an awareness untouched by thought. The confusion then is sacred. It's the dismantling of illusion, the breakdown before the breakthrough. Then comes detachment. You start to observe the world without the same emotional entanglement. It's not that you stop caring, but rather you begin to care differently. You are no longer controlled by your attachments or fears, the opinions of others, the success or failure of your plans. They still matter, but not in the way they once did. You can see them from a distance, like watching ripples on water. Life continues, but you are no longer consumed by it. This detachment is not cold or indifferent, it's compassionate clarity. You recognize that everything is fleeting, and so you begin to love without possession, act without demand, and live without grasping. This stage can feel lonely because few understand it. You may even miss the old ways of feeling, the rush of emotional highs and lows. Yet deep within, there's a quiet knowing, a stillness that tells you this is not loss, but liberation. You are no longer being lived by your conditioning. You are beginning to live consciously. And finally, there is curiosity. A wonder that awakens in you like that of a child seeing the world for the first time. After the confusion fades and detachment settles, you start to see life's beauty in its purest form. Every breath, every sound, every face becomes mysterious again. You begin to ask not, what do I get from this? But what is this? You are no longer seeking answers. You are simply open. You start to sense that everything, even the smallest moment, carries divine intelligence. These three signs are not separate stages, but intertwined movements of awakening. Confusion humbles the mind, detachment frees the heart, and curiosity opens the spirit. Together, they dismantle the illusion of separateness, leaving you standing in the simplicity of being. What once seemed chaotic begins to make perfect sense, because you see, life was never trying to confuse you. It was only trying to wake you up. Life itself becomes the teacher once you begin to see beyond illusion. The world stops being a random series of events and starts revealing a quiet intelligence beneath its surface. Every experience, pleasant or painful, becomes part of a greater lesson, not one written in words or scriptures, but in the texture of life itself. The people you meet, the challenges you face, the losses you endure, all begin to reflect something back to you. They are mirrors, each showing you a fragment of who you are and what you have yet to understand. When you start to awaken, you realize that truth isn't confined to holy books or teachers sitting on mountains. It's present in the ordinary, in the way a leaf falls, in the silence after laughter, in the ache of loneliness, in the warmth of sunlight on your skin. The universe begins to speak to you not through language, but through synchronicities, through patterns, through intuition. You notice how certain people arrive in your life just when you need them, how certain events repeat until you learn their message. Life becomes a living classroom, and you, the eternal student, begin to listen more deeply than ever before. But this learning isn't about accumulating knowledge, it's about dissolving resistance. The more you fight what life presents, the more it repeats itself. Yet the moment you stop fighting and simply allow experience to unfold, it transforms from suffering into wisdom. Pain becomes a teacher of compassion. Uncertainty becomes a guide toward trust. Even disappointment becomes a lesson in surrender. You begin to see that everything, even what the mind calls bad, carries within it a seed of awakening. Life
All of
teaches
these
with
websites
paradox.
look like they're
It
made
gives
by
you what
AI.
you think you don't want, so you
Absolutely
can discover
unhuman.
what you truly need. It removes people
These
from
kind of
your
pictures
life
do not help.
to show you that love isn't possession. It gives you silence when you crave answers, so you can hear the still voice within. Slowly, you realize that life's greatest teachings are hidden within your own reactions. When anger rises, life is showing you where you still cling. When fear appears, life is showing you where you still separate yourself from trust. Every moment becomes an invitation to return to awareness. To live this way is to be a student of existence. You stop trying to control life, and instead you learn from it. You become humble because you see that every moment, even the smallest, holds more wisdom than all the philosophies in the world. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But instead, what is this showing me? That simple shift turns chaos into order, confusion into clarity. When life becomes your teacher, awakening no longer feels like an abstract goal. It becomes a daily experience. You learn to dance with what is, to see every encounter as sacred. Even the mistakes become holy because they reveal another layer of truth. And in that surrender, in that openness to learn from everything, you realize the greatest lesson of all. There is no separation between the student and the teacher, between life and yourself. Life was never teaching you. Life is you remembering itself. Awakening is not an escape from the world, but a deeper participation in it. Many imagine that spiritual awakening means retreating into silence, abandoning worldly life, and living detached from human affairs. But the truth is far more intimate. When you awaken, you don't turn away from life. You fall into it completely. You begin to see that everything around you, every sound, every person, every fleeting emotion, is a manifestation of the same consciousness that breathes through you. The awakened one doesn't leave the world behind. They see the world for what it truly is: divine, alive, and endlessly interconnected. When you are asleep to this truth, the world feels chaotic, divided, full of conflict and suffering. You experience life as something happening to you. But awakening dissolves that illusion. You realize that you are not separate from what you experience. The same awareness that watches the rain fall is the same awareness that forms the clouds. The same consciousness that feels love is the same one shining through the eyes of the one you love. With this understanding, you stop resisting life. You no longer stand apart, judging what should or shouldn't be. You flow with existence instead of fighting against it. This deeper participation is not passive, it's profoundly alive. You engage with the world fully, but now from a space of clarity, not ego. You may still work, create, raise a family, face challenges, but your motivation shifts. You no longer act out of fear, ambition, or validation. You act because life moves through you like a current. Your actions become effortless, spontaneous, and filled with authenticity. Whether you are washing dishes, speaking with a stranger, or watching the sunset, you are completely present. You realize that enlightenment doesn't mean withdrawing from the marketplace. It means seeing the sacred within the marketplace itself. And yet, this deeper participation often looks quieter on the outside. The noise of constant wanting fades. The mind that was once desperate to fix the world now rests in the understanding that the world unfolds perfectly, even in its apparent imperfection. This doesn't make you indifferent. It makes you compassionate. Because when you see yourself in everything, you cannot help but care deeply. Compassion is no longer an effort. It's your natural state. You see suffering not as something distant, but as your own reflection asking to be embraced. The paradox of awakening is that you become more grounded, not less. You feel more, not less.
Прикольно
You
було.
laugh, you cry, you
Я
love,
бы
but you
оценила.
do it from a place of vast stillness. The ego
Ну
may
что?
fade, but
А что бы
humanity
такого?
deepens. Every
Я вот
encounter
думал,
becomes
монетку
sacred
или
because you
камень,
recognize the
или
divine.
полотенце бумажное.
Монетка точно нормально было бы. Полотенце бумажное тоже мне бы не сильно это сломали что-то. Мог бы.
Мог бы, но передумал. Вот, а еще я подумал, что я тебя люблю, и поехал, заехал.
Pulse in all things.
Вот
To awaken
это
then
да.
is not to escape reality, but to
Катя.
finally meet it.
Как ты
Without
успел?
resistance, without
А,
judgment,
да во
without
сколько
fear.
он закрывается?
You